working on the night shift. Now I'm one westward, sharper than an ice pick. On you rappers' necks, and it's feeling like some vice grips. Yeah, that's light shit. Send my bro a kite quick. Ties of war, we ain't forget about you. Keep your light lit. Rappers can't see. Most of them scared to witness. Go on, close your eyes. There's one right here for the trenches. Bad bitches, natural hair or extensions. Hood niggas that'll poly grip like some dentures. Brothers on them fences. 23 and 1 out. Praying that commissary hit before it run out. Bitches on the gram, dog filter with their tongue out. Couldn't stay home because they found the dugout. Closed casket, burner in the low jacket. My co-captain, riding on these whole rappers. My hoes fabulous. Now I don't mean that derogatory, but I'm a player and there's no my women riding for me. I avoided Maury. I got 2 jets. If I can't make it through for them, then I'm useless. Sit down that roof, Chris, with a couple bosses. After the war, just to count our losses. It's not many. You see a smile on my face, but I'm not friendly. Gun on my waist, sipping white Henny. I just hope this shit go right. Living in the dark, you don't know light. Gotta got my heart, grip my bow tie. Waiting on the squab in my whole life. I just hope this shit go right. Living in the dark, you don't know light. Gotta got my heart, grip my bow tie. Living in the squab in my whole life. My whole life. It's so melodic. When I be dropping this ebonics, this ghetto phonics, they got me on the level supersonic. My bomb atomic, and you know where you can find me. Somewhere probably folding this paper origami. My name is pure as the Dasani. My wave is like a tsunami. I went from 0 to 100, feeling like Ricky Bobby. I made a deal with the Reaper. Got a couple wives, they some keepers. Talk a lot of shit, but you can't walk a mile in my sneakers. Bitches go to Miami, come home with changed features. Now she got a BBL, her ass fatter. Trying to show up all them niggas that laughed at her. Now when they see her, they only wanna fuck her. They just wanna touch her, they don't wanna cuff her. They just wanna come and kick it with her like a punter. Turned her to a runner, now it's all aboard the train. Fenty on the face, but it's not concealing the pain, it's a shame. So I'm in the hood like some rap snacks. I know niggas kill you and your mama for a scat pack. Dark tint, matte black, they do it for half that. Had you like 90s Missy in a fucking trash bag. I'm from Philly, we don't do bank accounts, just cash app. I spit a verse and I just watch the time slow. This that guy flow, this that shit that rappers die for. This that uncut Taha Wall straight from Pablo Escobar. I be at the bar like Moscato. They think it's effort, but no, this that block work. Make the countermeasures, take pleasures, making an op hurt. Light is in the sky, cause every verse is a concert. My mind work at speed y'all can't fathom. Listen to the words of a champion. The kid, the streets need another anthem. I just hope this shit go right. Living in the dark, you don't know light. Gotta got my heart, grip my bow tie. Waiting on the squab in my whole life. I just hope this shit go right. Living in the dark, you don't know light. Gotta got my heart, grip my bow tie. Living in the squab in my whole life. My whole life.
Promise that you sing about it forever. Promise that you sing about it forever. Promise that you sing about it forever.
Our Shalom Israel. Welcome to another installment of Practical Knowledge. We are the ISUPK. Start out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. We got a special guest in the building. We got Priest and Captain Soccer War. How you doing today, Captain?
Hey, shalom. Yo, shout out to all the brothers, your house, Shema, Thabawan, shout out all the sisters. Priest and Captain 10,000 Soccer War joining y'all live from Memphis, Tennessee, one state the water. To Officer of 1,000 Thabawan, man, for bringing me on here to run through this installment of Universal Practical Knowledge. We got a very important, very detailed and thorough breakdown for y'all today concerning the fall of Jerusalem. Thabawan, you got it.
Kind of one kind, because when you read the Bible, there's many instances where Israel has fallen to heathen authorities. And what we're going to do is go into the Bible, go into some prophecies Christ prophesied. We're going to talk about a lot of history, a lot of names, a lot of dates, and and you name it, man. We got a lot of footage for you, a lot of scriptures for you, and we're gonna talk about the siege of Jerusalem. You may have heard that before, but we're gonna go in depth, give you an in-depth breakdown, and its importance and relevance to us today as Israelites, coming back to our culture and nationality. So, Priest and Captain Soccer War, sir, the floor is yours, sir.
So if I could, man, the fall of Jerusalem was a very significant historical event. It signaled the end of the Jewish state on a global scale, but also for us as Israelites, as the children of the Most High, it spelled the end of us having a homeland or a place to call home. You understand? The fall of Jerusalem meant the beginning of the dispersion of the diaspora of the children of Israel from their homeland to the four corners of the earth, eventually leading us to fulfilling the prophecies of Deuteronomy 28 and 68 when we began to come over into the Americas on slave ships. And so it's important to understand the dynamics of what was going on in the land of Israel leading up to this historical event. And if you go into the New Testament and you read about the testimony of our King Yahushua Mashiach, who the world calls Jesus Christ, and the climate that he was encountering, is very easy to understand what preceded the fall of Jerusalem. So what we're going to get an understanding of is the first Jewish revolt is what began a 4-year battle between the Roman Empire and the Israelites in Jerusalem, which preceded the siege. Now, if we go to Acts chapter 5, verse 34, again, the New Testament will show you the power struggle dynamic which was taking place in the land of Israel, during the time of Christ. What we're going to read here in Acts is that there was a lot of disdain amongst the Israelites concerning the Roman oppression, concerning the way that the Romans were ruling over us. They were having us levying heavy taxes on us. You understand? There was a culture push to wipe out us identifying as Israelites and to bring us into more of the Roman culture, worshiping Roman gods. And while the center of power, which were the Pharisees at the time, where they were complacent being in power over the children of Israel under the Romans, the majority of the Israelites who were being oppressed wanted to revolt and rise up. So let me get Acts chapter 5, verse 34. Thabawan, you got it.
Hold on, Wakan, sir. So we had Acts chapter 5, verse 34. Then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. And he said unto them, Ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves, that ye intend to do as touching these men. For before these days rose up Theodotus, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who was slain, and all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered and brought to naught. After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. And now I say unto you, refrain from these men, and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught.
So you see there, this brother Gamaliel, who was a Pharisee, at the time when Christ's disciples were rising up and going out and teaching and were gathering people under them, the Pharisees felt threatened by these brothers because they were impending on their territory. You understand? Impeding on their territory, drawing people to them, and they wanted to destroy the disciples. They wanted to break these brothers down and put them in their place. And this man rose up and said, "Listen, man, don't y'all remember we just had this cat that rose up and led 400 men? He died, all his followers went away. Then this cat Theodotus rose up, and this cat Judas of Galilee rose up, man. He was making noise, had a whole mob following him, trying to overthrow us, trying to be against the Romans. He died, and everybody disappeared." Well, listen, these cats, they man that died already. This is after the death of Christ. Their leader done died, man. Leave these men alone, man. If their work be of the Most High, ain't nothing we can do. But if they're not of the Most High, man, it's going to come to naught. But this goes to show you that Christ was not the first man to gather people unto him against the Pharisees and Sadducees. He was not the first man to gather men unto him against the Romans. Why were there so many brothers and sisters who were gathering together against the Pharisees, gathering together against the Romans, because they were Israelites who weren't cool with being oppressed. They were Israelites who felt like we should be ruling in our homeland. We should have our own culture. We should keep our identity. Why the hell should we be trying to be like these other people? I don't want to celebrate no goddamn Saturnalia. You understand? We want to keep the Passover. I don't want to put on no goofy, funny Roman toga. I want to wear my Israelite garment with my fringes and rock the Thabawan.
Right.
But the Pharisees were in control and they were not having it. You understand? So the struggle for power in Israel is what kept us divided up until the days that Israelites gathered together and revolted against the Romans. And that's what began the first Jewish revolt. Now, if I can get John chapter 11, verse 47.
Okay.
You understand? It'll go to show you at what lengths the Pharisees were willing to go to in order to maintain their power. And it goes to show you the mindset of the men who were ruling in Israel during that time. So for brothers and sisters who may not know the history, during the time of Christ and afterwards, there were three main factions that held power in Israel. You had the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and they were the men who were the descendants of the brothers who rose up during the Maccabean revolt, during the times of the Greeks. They had maintained power in Israel. They were the lawyers. They were the doctors. They were the men who executed the judgments of the Most High against the people.
Right.
But then you had another group who was rising up called the Essenes. And they had different views concerning life and death and the resurrection and things like that. But after the death of Christ and the time preceding the first Jewish revolt, there was a new group that rose up on the scene, and they were known as the Zealots. And these brothers, they played very prominently in the siege of Jerusalem, and we'll get into a little bit about them later. But let's get John chapter 11, verse 47.
So we had John chapter 11, verse 47. Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council, and said, What do we? For this man doeth many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him.
If I could, Thabawan Salaki. This is speaking about Christ.
Right.
This was a gathering of the Pharisees while Christ was teaching, while he was raising up the dead, while he was healing the sick, gathering masses in the streets to hear him speak.
Right.
They're saying, man, what the hell are we going to do about this cat, man? If we leave him alone, everybody going to believe on him.
Right.
Well, what's wrong with everybody believing on him? What's wrong with everybody following this brother that's casting out demons and performing miracles and speaking the truth of the Most High?
Mm-hmm.
You got it?
Verse 48. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him. And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahushua should die for that nation.
You understand? These bastards were willing to offer up our king so that they could keep their seat. Caiaphas said, hey, man, don't worry about this cat, man. I know he got these people following him, but they ain't going to be no revolution, nigga. Not on our watch.
Right.
You're going to get this man. The Romans is not going to take away our seat. They're not going to take away the seat of their power. The Pharisees were content ruling over Israel, but bowing down to the Romans. But the men like Christ and the men who followed him, they didn't want to bow down to the Romans, nor did they want to bow down to the wicked Pharisees.
Right.
And Caiaphas, being the high priest, he prophesied. He was evil bastard, but he had the spirit of the Lord, and that he prophesied that Christ would die.
Right.
Pharisees were wicked bastards, man. They were willing to do whatever it took to stay in the favor of the Romans, to stay in the pocket of the Romans. You understand? And when you have evil leaders, when you have weak leaders, when you have hypocrite leaders, the people can never rise out of oppression. Right. And that's what was taking place in the land of Israel during the days of Christ and even after he died. And so Israel remained divided until around the year 66 AD, when the Pharisees were overthrown as the power seat. When these other bands of Israelites and these other groups put aside their petty differences, they gathered together and removed the Pharisees and then went to war with the Romans.
Right.
So in 66 AD, the Romans entered onto the scene. Thabawan, you can go ahead and tell them who was on the side of the Romans leading the charge against the children of Israel.
Against the children of Israel, you had a man by the name of Vespasian, who was a Roman general, right? And as the people see on the screen, they see a old bust of a man. They're known as busts, like the head of a statue of Vespasian. And if I could, sir, could we go into a little bit of who this man Vespasian is?
Come on with it.
All right, count on what kind.
No sweat.
Vespasian was the 9th emperor of Rome and succeeded in the restoring peace and stability after a period of civil war. He founded the Flavian dynasty of emperors. Titus Flavius Vespasianus, known as Vespasian, was born in 9 AD, northwest of Rome. He had a successful military career, commanding the 2nd Legion in the invasion of Britain in 43 AD and conquering the southwest of England. He later rose in the Senate to become consul in 51 AD and governor of Africa a decade later. He became a trusted aide of the Emperor Nero and was put in charge of the suppression of the Jewish revolt from 66 AD to 70 AD. And by 68 AD, most of Judea was recovered, although Jerusalem remained to be taken. If I may, sir, so what we're learning right here about this man by the name of Vespasian is that he is one with military wit. You understand what I'm saying? Like in the history, when he approached the walls of Jerusalem, or the where we were located, right? He came with 60,000 Roman soldiers. You get what I'm saying? He came with 60,000 Roman soldiers. These were soldiers who were disciplined, unlike the undisciplined soldiers that Titus came with 3 or 4 years later. Titus came with mercenaries, if you will. But the men under Vespasian, because of Vespasian's reputation and his military wit, if you will, he came with soldiers who were disciplined, soldiers who followed orders, soldiers who were ready to lead or be commanded at the lead of this man by the name of Vespasian, who later became emperor over Rome. But if I may, sir, would you like me to continue reading on Vespasian?
If I could, I think you've covered everything about Vespasian that we need to know. This is a cat that was, like you said, very experienced militarily, had a lot of respect in the Roman hierarchy, right, because of his successful campaigns in Britain and Africa and these different places. And he was the general that was dispatched by Nero in the year 68 to come against the children of Israel. You understand? Now Vespasian had a son named Titus. Titus was his son who operated under him in the command of the military. And so Titus is the one who eventually overcame the children of Israel and got credit for the victory, even though the campaign was begun by his father Vespasian. You want to give a little bit of history about Vespasian? About Titus?
Kind of what kind. So who is Titus? Right, as you see on the screen, you see another bust of a man by the name of Titus. And we'll read a little bit about Titus and get a little bit of background of who this man is in history. Right? It says, Titus was the 10th emperor of Rome. His short reign was notable for the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 AD and the opening of the Colosseum in 80 AD. Titus Flavius Vespasianus was born in Rome on December 30th, 39 AD, the elder son of the future emperor Vespasian. He was brought up in the court of Emperor Claudius as a companion to the emperor's son Britannicus. Titus enjoyed a successful military career and in 67 AD went with his father to suppress the Jewish revolt. I'm emphasizing that for a reason. In 69 AD, Vespasian returned to Rome to assert his claim for the imperial throne, leaving Titus to continue the campaign. In 70 AD, Jerusalem was sacked, the Jewish temple was destroyed, and much of the population killed and dispersed. When Titus returned to Rome, Vespasian groomed him for the succession, sharing his powers with him to an unprecedented degree. Titus succeeded his father in 79 AD and continued his policies. He enjoyed excellent relations with the Senate and was popular with the people for the lavish games he put on. The Colosseum was opened in 80 AD. Right, that's pretty much to give you a better and clearer idea of who Vespasian is and who Titus is, who they were, the time period that they lived, if you will, sir.
For sure. And the conquering of the children of Israel and the sacking of Jerusalem was a prominent event in both of the lives of these men, and it added to their lore and their illustrious recognition throughout history. You understand?
Right.
But both of these men were generals in the Roman army during the rulership of a man named Nero. Now, Nero is an emperor who's famous in history because it is said that while Rome burned, Nero played the flute or the fiddle.
Right.
And what you have to understand about the Emperor Nero is he was a cat that was very much into arts, very much into lavish, clothes and gold and whores and sexy, nasty parties. He was a nasty, freaky bastard when he ruled over the Roman Empire. And him being in power, he had generals who he rose up under him who he could trust to go out and fight battles, fight wars, and squash the rebellions that rose up. And that is why he sent out Vespasian and Titus. Now, I don't know if you had any history on Nero. And if you do, you can read it. But I want to show you all that these men and their rise to power in Rome is something that was biblically prophesied. And It was something that was shown to priests and prophets of the children of Israel years before they came on the scene and years before the fall of Jerusalem. Thabawan, did you have anything on Nero?
Absolutely, sir. Kind of
Come on with it.
So just to go into a little bit about Nero, right? Nero became emperor of the Roman Empire after the death of his adopted father, the Emperor Claudius, in AD 54, the last ruler of what historians call the Julio-Claudian dynasty, right? And it says, excuse me, it says he ruled until he committed suicide in June of 68 AD. Famously known for the apocryphal story that he fiddled while Rome burned in a great fire, Nero has become one of the most infamous men who ever lived. During his rule, he murdered his own mother, Agrippina the Younger, his first wife, Octavia, and allegedly his second wife, Poppaea Sabina. In addition, ancient writers claim that he started the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD so that he could rebuild the city's center. Yet, despite the numerous charges that have been leveled by ancient writers, there is evidence that Nero enjoyed some level of popular support. He had a passion for music and the arts and an interest that culminated in a public performance he gave in Rome in 65 AD. Also, while he was blamed for starting the fire, he took it upon himself to organize relief efforts, and ancient writers make other allusions to acts of charity that he performed. So that's just a little bit of insight on who Nero was, if you will, sir.
And as I stated, man, this period of time during the Roman dynasty, from what Thabawan alluded to as the Julian Claudian dynasty, until the rise of the what is the name of the Flavian dynasty that was begun by Vespasian.
Right.
You understand? This was a prominent period in the history of the Roman Empire. We'll get into the specifics of it in a short while, but we're going to go into the Bible and show you that this period of time in Rome was prophesied in the Bible. The rise of the Roman Empire, the fall of Jerusalem. Jerusalem. You understand?
Right.
The reign of the Roman Empire until it turned into the Roman Catholic Church, and it spread all across the earth, even until today, with the rulership of America and the stranglehold that the Western powers have on the planet was prophesied thousands of years ago.
Right.
So now we're going to go into the book of 2nd Ezra, the 11th chapter. We're going to show you that the Most High revealed to the prophet Ezra the rise of this empire and specifically these men
Right.
on the earth. Come on with it, Thabawan.
Kind of Wakan. Second Ezra 11:1. As you see on the screen, then saw I a dream, and behold, there came up from the sea an eagle, which had 12 feathered wings and 3 heads. And I saw, and behold, she spread her wings over all the earth, and all the winds of the air blew on her, and were gathered together.
If I could, Thabawan, real quick,
You
can stop right there. Give me in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, where the Lord prophesied that he would send a nation against us as swift as the eagle flies.
You
understand? Right here, Ezra is being shown a vision, a dream. And he sees an eagle rise out of the ocean. And this eagle has 12 feathers, and this eagle has 3 heads. We're going to get into the significance of these 12 feathered wings, Salakia, and 3 heads. We're going to get into the significance of these wings, these feathers, and these heads. But I want to show you that all the way during the days of Moses, the rise of this eagle was prophesied to come against the children of Israel.
Right.
Thabawan, you got it.
Kind of Wakan, sir. Deuteronomy 28:49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
Now let me ask you this, Thabawan. What was the sigil of the Roman Empire? When the Romans went out to war, what did they raise on their banners or raise on a stick that went before the death that came from the Roman army?
Like it, sir, they used the eagle.
It was an eagle. You understand?
An
eagle with 2 heads, I believe, was the sigil of the Roman Empire. This prophecy of this eagle that would come against the children of Israel as swift as the eagle flieth is a prophecy pertaining to the Roman Empire.
Right.
Now let's go back to 2nd Ezra, the 2nd chapter. We're going to pick up at verse 5 and read on.
2nd Ezra 11:5. Moreover, I beheld, and lo, the eagle flew with her feathers, and rained upon the earth, and over them that dwelt therein. Verse 6. And I saw that all things under heaven were subject unto her, and no man spake against her, no, not one creature upon the earth. And I beheld.
If I could, so like if I could, this time period that we're discussing during the fall of Jerusalem was a time when the Roman Empire ruled over the known earth.
Right.
Vespasian was a man that went and fought wars in Britain.
Right.
Went and fought against the Germans. Then he went and ruled over Africa.
Right.
Then he came and niggas rose up in the Middle East, and he came down to squash them in the Middle East. The time that was being prophesied to Ezra is the period of time when Nero, Vespasian, and Titus would rule and reign on the earth.
Right.
Over everyone. You understand?
Right.
You was gonna say something, Thabawan?
Nah, sir.
If I could, drop down now. We're gonna go to 2nd Ezra, the 11th chapter. We're gonna go to verse 12. All right.
Count on Wakan. 2nd Ezra 11:12.
Come.
Count on Wakan. Verse 12. And I looked, and behold, on the right side there arose one feather and rained over all the earth.
Now, if I could, Ezra is seeing this eagle raise up. And on the right side of this eagle, there's one feather that raises up. And this feather rules over all the earth. Go ahead.
Count on Wakan. Verse 13. And so it was that when it rained, the end of it came, and the place thereof appeared no more. So the next following stood up and reigned and had a great time. And it happened that when it rained, the end of it came also, like as the first, so that it appeared no more.
Now, if I could, these feathers are rising up and ruling. These feathers represent kings. These feathers represent men with authority and with power that rule over all the earth. Now, this second feather is significant because it was said, so like, I mean that you keep reading. It said that this second one rose up and had a great time, meaning this second feather experienced great power. Read on.
Count on kind. Verse 15. Then came there a voice unto it and said, Hear thou that hast borne rule over the earth so long. This I say unto thee, before thou beginnest to appear no more. Verse 17. There shall none after thee attain unto thy time, neither unto the half thereof.
If I could, Thabawan, that's very important to remember as we go into the historical significance of this time period that we're discussing in prophecy.
Right.
It was told to this second feather, you're going to rise up and have a great time.
Right.
And you're going to be powerful and you're going to have a long reign, and nobody else's reign is going to be as long or as strong as yours.
Right.
Remember that. When we go to the historical significance of these feathers, remember what was prophesied to the second feather that rose up and ruled over the earth. Keep reading.
Count on kind. Verse 18. Then arose the third, and reigned as the other before, and appeared no more also. So went it with all the residue one after another, as that every one reigned, and then appeared no more. Then I beheld, and lo, in process of time, the feathers that followed stood up upon the right side, that they might rule also, and some of them ruled, but within a while they appeared no more. For some of them were set up, but ruled not.
Now, that is also very significant.
Right.
You have feathers that rose up one after the other and they ruled. But in the process of time, there were some feathers that stood up so that they might rule. Some of them ruled, but within a while they appeared no more, meaning they didn't rule very long at all. Damn near didn't rule anything of significance. Verse 21 said some of them were set up, but ruled not. Some of them they set up to be ruling, but they never actually experienced any power, never actually experienced any significant rulership.
Right.
Read verse 22.
Count on what kind. 2 Esdras 11 and 22. After this I looked, and behold, the 12 feathers appeared no more, nor the 2 little feathers.
Now, what is all of this talking about? What does this mean? What is the significance of this prophecy that was given to Esdras? Now, if I could, Thabawan, I'm going to share my screen, all right?
Count on what kind.
You let me know if this is coming in through clear for the people to be able to see. Boom. You seeing this on the screen?
Let me see. Count on what kind.
Okay, there is a book that is called The 12 Seasons. Everybody understand? It is in Latin, the title is De Vita Caesarium, about the life of the Caesars. It's commonly known as the 12 Caesars. It is a set of 12 biographies of Julius Caesar and the first 11 emperors of the Roman Empire.
Wow.
Everybody understands? From the Julius Caesar rising to power began the Julian Claudio dynasty. Then there was a period of time with some influx, and then rose the Flavian dynasty, which started with Vespasian but ended with his son Diocletian. Everybody understand? Now I'm gonna try to enlarge this on the screen for everybody to be able to see the list of these names. Everybody understands? Right here. Here's the contents of the 12 Caesars. It gives you the list of the 12 Caesars. Julius Caesar reigned first. Then after him rose up Augustus. Now, what did the Bible say about that second feather? It said that second feather would experience a great rule, and that none of the other feathers would experience power and reign such as it. Everybody understands, right?
Right.
We're going to read a little bit about the history of Augustus Caesar. It says, before he died, Julius Caesar had designated his great nephew, Gaius Octavius, who would be named Augustus by the Roman Senate after becoming emperor, as his adopted son and heir. Everybody understands? I'm going to cut down a little bit. It said it was after his victory in 31 BC that Octavian became master of the Roman world and imperator or emperor. His declaration of the end of the civil wars that had started under Julius Caesar marked the historic beginning of the Roman Empire and the Pax Romana. Everybody understands? Since Octavian was at this point given the title Augustus the Venerable, by the Roman Senate. Everybody understands?
Right.
I'm gonna read on down a little bit more. All right. It says Suetonius described certain omens and dreams that predicted the birth of Augustus. One dream described in a book suggested that his mother Atia was a virgin impregnated by a Roman god. In 63 BC, during the consulship of Cicero, several Roman senators dreamt that a king would be born and would rescue the republic. 63 BC was also the year Augustus was born. One other omen described by Suetonius suggested that Julius Caesar decided to make Augustus his heir after seeing an omen while serving as the Roman governor of Hispania Ulterior. The Bible prophesied that this one would have greatness that far exceeded the others. Also, Caesar Augustus ruled, I want to say he ruled 27 years as emperor, and that rulership far outlasted any of the others who were to follow him. Everybody understands?
Right.
So you had Julius Caesar, you had Augustus, who was more prominent and ruled longer than any of the others as prophesied in the book of Ezra. Then you had Tiberius, the third, who was the third emperor, Caligula, who was the fourth, a very disgusting bastard in history.
Right.
Claudius, who was the fifth. After the death of Claudius, it put an end to the Julian-Claudian dynasty. Then it began a new period of emperors, which started with Nero. Then Nero passed away in 68 AD and began what was known in history as the year of the four emperors.
Right.
The year of the four emperors was a time in Rome where 4 men was donned emperor within the space of a year, which goes back to the prophecy that we just read in 2nd Ezra that some of these feathers would be set up, but they would not rule. Some of these feathers would rise and rule for a little bit. Others wouldn't even rule at all.
Good night.
Galba, Otho, and Vitellius were 3 men who rose to power and were murdered or died suspiciously before the rise of Vespasian, before the end of the year of 68 AD. Vespasian, because of his military prowess, because of his success in battle, because of the rapport that he had leading men to battle, nobody would settle for Galba ruling. Nobody settled for Otho, and they looked at Vitellius and said, "Hell no, we want Vespasian."
Right.
So Vespasian, in the midst of the campaign to take over the land of Israel and to put those Jews back in their place, left the battlefield, returned to Rome, where he was donned emperor after the death of Vitellius, and his rise began the Flavian dynasty, which was succeeded by his son Titus and his grandson Domitian, which ended the reign of the 12 Caesars, and as we read in the book of 2nd Ezra, put an end to these 12 feathers ruling on the earth. That's Thabawan.
Kind.
People may watch this and say, them niggas is crazy.
Well, if I may, sir, that wouldn't be nothing new. You know what I mean? Like, if I could, what you're bringing out is so heavy, because we read in Deuteronomy where it says, a nation, you know what I'm saying, as swift as the eagle flieth. And I put on the screen the symbol or insignia of the Roman Empire, if you will, that it was an eagle. And it just so happens that the breakdown that Esdras is receiving happens to be that of an eagle. You get what I'm saying? The Lord knows what he's doing. The Lord knows exactly what he was telling Esdras. And now when you go to breaking down 12 feathers in that book, as I'm showing on the screen, the 12 Caesars by Matthew Dennison, that breaks down the quote-unquote dramatic lives of the emperors of Rome, you see, and their impact on what was known as the known world back then. And even today, the whole idea of a Senate comes from the Roman Empire. You get what I'm saying? So the influence of Rome is alive in American policies and the way America sets up and handles things. That comes from even Republicans and Democrats. Comes from the Roman Empire. I believe you had the plebeians, and I forget the other name of it. I put it on there, but you get that from the Roman Empire. You get what I'm saying? So with the information you bringing out as far as the 12 feathers, and then the second who came into power will reign longer than the others. That's all you're showing that that's all biblical prophecy, and it's showing that if this is true, what Ezra wrote down hundreds of years before the reign of Vespasian, that shows that this Bible was true.
Come, for sure. And like you said, they've been trying to say for years that we ain't know what the hell we was talking about, Thabawan.
Right.
They might watch this and say these niggas is crazy. Them feathers ain't got nothing to do with no kings, ain't got nothing to do with no Romans. If I could, Thabawan, let's go to 2nd Ezra, man, the 12th chapter, verse 10. Just in case they think we twisting scriptures and we misinterpreting something, let's see what the Most High told Ezra these feathers represent.
I like it, sir. I don't think they're ready for this one.
They're going to have to take it. They're going to have to get their medicine today.
Right. And if I could, that was the plebeians and patricians. That's where you get the idea of Democrats and Republicans. That comes from the Roman Empire.
For sure.
2nd Ezra 12 and 10. And he said unto me, this is the interpretation of the vision. The eagle whom thou sawest come up from the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel.
Now, if I could, I know you done a breakdown on the vision of Daniel, right, Thabawan?
Kind.
You done gone and shown everybody that these beasts in this vision were different empires that would rise up on the earth. And the angel has said on Ezra, Daniel was shown the vision of these beasts. Well, this eagle is the last one that rose up. And we know through the history, that last beast, that last empire that rose up that Daniel saw was the Roman Empire.
Right.
Keep on.
Kind. Verse 12. But it was not expounded unto him. Therefore now I declare it unto thee.
If I could, there were some things that were revealed to Daniel, but then not everything. What wasn't revealed to Daniel, I'm about to drop on you now, Ezra. That's what the angel tells him.
Right. Kind. But it was not expounded unto him. Therefore now I declare it unto thee. Behold, the days will come that there shall rise up a kingdom upon earth, and it shall be feared above all the kingdoms that were before it. And the same shall 12 kings reign, one after another, whereof the second shall begin to reign, and shall have more time than any of the 12. And this do the 12 wings signify which thou sawest.
Now, during the time when Ezra walked the earth, this was something that was, unbelievable. This was something that was unseen.
Right.
Here we are, over 2,500 years later, and we can look back on history and show that God was showing Ezra the future.
That's amazing.
That God was predicting, knew what was going to happen, knew so much about it that it was able to be told to Ezra in detail that the second king would reign longer than any others.
Right.
And what is the most powerful empire that has ever risen on the earth that was feared above all? The Roman Empire.
Right.
And what period was there ever when there were 12 kings that reigned in Rome? The period of the 12 Caesars. And in that period of the 12 Caesars, the second one ruled the longest. There was also a period in there where a couple of them supposed to rise up but didn't rule. And we just gave you the year of the 4 emperors. And it concluded with the rise of Vespasian and the Flavian dynasty.
Good night. If I may, sir.
Come on with it.
And that's so heavy because the angel said, if I could go back to 2nd Ezra 12 and 10, right? Where it says, it says, and he said unto me, this is the interpretation of the vision. The eagle whom thou sawest come from the sea is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel. Because as you know, Daniel was given many visions and revelations, if you will, of future empires. You know what I mean? And the fact that it says in 2nd Ezra 12 and verse, verse 13, that this particular kingdom that will come upon the earth, it shall be feared above all the kingdoms that were before it. Even the Persian Empire at its height of power was feared, but it was never at the extent of how powerful the Roman Empire was. One thing the Roman Empire was very famous for that exceeded the empires before it was its military might.
Come.
You know what I'm saying? Like the Persian Empire didn't have the military might and wit and strategies, warfare strategies, and things of that nature, like the Roman Empire. Hell, they didn't even have it like the Greeks, which is why the Greeks, led by Alexander the Great, so-called great among them, I call him the Greek. You get what I'm saying? He defeated the Persians in a fast amount of time, in a really fast amount of time. You get what I'm saying? So the Roman Empire, when they came into power, right, it's just another Edomite superpower. You see, they took over what was known as the known world. And if I may, one last thing, sir, this should help people understand the time period Christ came into, which really stands out to me, because now I understand what Christ had to deal with growing up, what his parents had to deal with growing up, what he had to see in the streets of Jerusalem. He had to see Roman influence in the streets of Galilee and Nazareth. He had to see Roman soldiers patrol the cities. You get what I'm saying? He had to. That's why he made references such as, "He that followeth me must carry his cross," because in the first century, of crucifixions and people carrying crosses was something of the norm. You understand what I'm saying? So I just think that what you're bringing out is super heavy, sir.
Like, if I could, Thabawan, it's so heavy that you tied it to the life of Christ, because it should help us living today know that Christ knows what it's like to be a black man in New York City.
Good night.
With the NYPD.
Right.
Christ knows what it's like to be from the gutter, from the hood, and seeing brothers go to jail, seeing the police patrolling the block,
right,
having family members that disappear in the prison system and never make their way out. It was no different during the days of Christ, living under the Roman oppression, than it is for us today living in America under the same nation's oppression.
Right.
The times have changed, the names have changed, the locations are different, but the people ruling today are the descendants of the Romans that ruled over us during the time of Christ, and we're reading about the prophecy of them today. Let me ask you this, Thabawan. After when Daniel prophesied about a nation that would rise up, would steal, and would be torturous on the earth, were there any empires that followed that one?
After the Roman Empire?
Come.
Not that I can think of.
So if this eagle that is being shown to Ezra is the beast that rose up in Daniel, it must mean the Romans are still ruling the earth.
Right.
That empire hasn't ended. That empire hasn't gone away.
Right.
As Thabawan alluded to, everything about American culture and American government comes from the Romans.
Right.
The American religion of Christianity comes from the Roman Empire, and their amalgamation of all their different religions rolled into one that they tried to mask and fit into this biblical record. But we're showing you here, uncut, raw, unadulterated, that the men of God who were given prophecies of the 12 tribes of Israel were the men who the Lord was dealing with.
Right. Damn right.
And that is not what's happening in your church. That is not what's happening, you understand, in your revivals that you have in the day in that Christian church. These men of God spoke about the rise and the fall of empires, and the Lord gave them warnings of wicked rulers and oppressors rising up above them. You understand? So if I could, but now we can get to the siege of Jerusalem. We understand that Vespasian rose to power, and he was leading the squash to put down the first Jewish revolt. But in 68 AD, there was the civil war concerning the death of Nero and who would be in power. Vespasian left the battlefield as the siege of Jerusalem began. So Vespasian, for 2.5 years, was going through the land and was taking back all of the territory that the Israelites had fought to recover from the Romans. And as they went and they put down the rebellions in all the other areas, they came to the gates of Jerusalem, and that's when Titus took over and took control of putting down this last vestige of Israelite power, this last stronghold of Israelite culture, identity, and homeland. And now we'll get into that a little bit. We're going to go now and get you Luke chapter 29, verse 20, and we're going to show you that the fall of Jerusalem, the siege of Jerusalem, was prophesied by our King Yahushua in the days before he left the earth.
Good night.
Let's go ahead and get there.
Kind of one kind. So we at Luke chapter 21, verse 20. It says, "And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Christ said, when you see enemies all around Israel, enemies surrounding us, know that the end of Israel is near. Read on.
Count on what kind. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people.
Christ prophesied the Romans coming and putting an end to the Jewish state.
Good night.
Christ prophesied the siege of Jerusalem and told everybody, when you see the signs of these things, flee, get the hell away, and do not come back. Keep reading. You had some more?
Sir. Verse 24, the last verse, it says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
And we are still in the times of the Gentiles. It has not been fulfilled yet.
Right.
That empire is still ruling and still in power, and we cannot return to our homeland.
So,
now understand, this is important for the people to understand, Thabawan, the fall of Jerusalem, particularly the siege of Jerusalem, was a especially gruesome event.
Right, right.
This was a horrible, unimaginably tragic and traumatic. The destruction of a nation is never something that is easy.
Right.
The putting of an end of a people as they know it is never something that comes without great bloodshed, great destruction, great cruelty. And the siege of Jerusalem was a very cruel and heinous historical event, damn near one of the most heinous, events in history,
right.
Which is why it's so prominent. Aside from it being important to us, it is prominent because of the cruelty and the savageness that the Romans displayed during that siege and after the end of it in the fallout.
If
you understand? Come on with it.
If I may, sir, before we go into it, I just want to say what you bringing out is absolutely correct, because there was a man by the name of Cornelius Tacitus, or Tacitus amongst some scholars. He is revered as one of the most greatest Roman historians. He, like, when you want to learn about Roman history, you go to his records and what he wrote down, because he was a first century historian during the time of the Roman Empire. And what he said in regards to the siege of Jerusalem, led by Titus, the son of Vespasian, he said that even Titus wasn't as proud of the siege of Jerusalem as most people thought, even though he was a devil. But Titus, he said out of his own mouth that this had to be a judgment from the God of this people, because of the amount of bloodshed, the amount of death in the zone. He said that this had to be a pending judgment. People could look this up, a pending judgment from this God of Israel. You understand what I'm saying? And that just goes to show, because they have monuments, if I may, sir, in declaration and honor of what's known as the siege of Jerusalem in the Ark of Titus. You get what I'm saying? It's known as the Ark of Titus in Rome today, and it's basically a commemoration to what happened during the siege of Jerusalem, how they took our menorah, they took our lampstand, they took our showbread, they took our holy vessels, they took all of our riches. And actually, sir, they also took after they burned the temple, after the temple was burned and everything, our holy place and stuff like that, they used a lot of the resources that they took from our place in Israel, and the temple and the menorah and the gold in our land, and they used that to finance what's known as today the Roman Colosseum. You get what I'm saying? Which still stands today.
And if I could, Thabawan, it just goes to show you that since the inception of this Roman Empire, they have been building off of the blood and the bones of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Right.
Great wealth has been amassed over our birthright for thousands of years on this earth.
Right.
And we should be understanding this history so that we can see the necessity and the importance of serving the Most High, of diligently returning to our culture, returning to our identity, returning to our righteousness, so that we can, by the grace and mercy of the Most High and our King Yahushua, reclaim our seat on this earth that has been taken from us for so many years.
Okay.
Now, if I could, Thabawan, I want to get into a little bit of the understanding the resistance forces that were at work when this siege began. I think it's important that brothers and sisters learn some of these names and know some of these brothers who stood stiffly and bravely, though foolishly, against the tower of Roman power that rained down on them during the siege of Jerusalem.
Kind of kind, sir.
All right, we ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Here we go.
All right. So this is
Salaki, go ahead. I was gonna play the video.
Oh, okay. Kind, sir.
Let me know when you got me ready.
All right. I got you ready, sir.
All right.
It's like, sir, I don't think they can hear it.
Salakia, my bad. They might not be able to hear. Give me 1 second, y'all. I'm gonna get that right for you.
Kind, sir.
The water. Go ahead. Boom. Hold up. All right, here we go. Now the audio is there, and we should be good to go.
All right.
All right.
Bunkered within this massive, fortified city was a garrison of approximately 20,000 Jewish troops. However, these were not professional forces. Rather, they were a motley assortment of militiamen, refugees, and zealots. This composition is a reflection of the thoroughly fractured nature of the Jewish resistance. Since the outbreak of the revolt, an effective, centralized government had failed to take form, and the resistance suffered from a chronic failure to synergize its various factions. Jerusalem had been divided along party lines and was tearing itself apart in bloody political infighting right up until the arrival of Roman forces. The principal leaders were Simon Giores, who laid claim to the upper city, and John of Gischala, who was based out of the Temple Mount. Simon led the larger of the two forces, which included 10,000 men under 50 officers and 6,000 allied Idumeans under 8 commanders. These troops garrisoned the first wall from the Kidron all the way to the Palace of the Kings. On the other side of the city, John had an armed following of around 6,000 men under 20 officers and was joined by Eleazar with his 2,400 zealots. These forces held the Temple Mount, along with the surrounding neighborhoods, including the Ophel and the Tyropaean Valley.
Now, if I could, Simon Giores, John of Gischala, and a brother named Eleazar, with his zealots, comprised the primary fighting force that held down the fort during the siege of Jerusalem. Thabawan, did you have anything on these brothers or to bring up on this part?
Kind, sir, I do.
Come on with it.
Kind, sir. So I got some information right here from the Britannica, right? Britannica.com. Under Titus's siege of Jerusalem. It's the second paragraph. It says, his father's strategy to allow Jews in Jerusalem to destroy themselves had been successful. Besides the zealots of Eleazar, son of Simon, and the private army of John Gischala, a new leader had come to power, Simon Bar Giora. He was supported by men from Idumea, the southern part of Judea, that the Romans had reconquered only recently. And it says John and Simon had different agendas. The first strove only for political freedom and minted silver coins with the legend, Freedom of Zion. Simon, on the other hand, stood at the head of a messianic movement. His copper coins have the legend, quote, Redemption of Zion. You see? And that's just a little bit of information on them and their motives behind what they were doing, if I could.
And again, as the video alluded to, and as with every period of the history of our nation, man, brothers could not come together.
Right.
Wouldn't that accept that there was a man that the Lord had chosen to rule? Wouldn't that acknowledge that we got to put aside our beefing, man, and for the sake of the nation, somebody got to be in charge. Everybody understand?
If I may, sir.
Go ahead with it.
What we got to understand as a people is that, or even me, sometimes I got to remind myself and imagine black people. You get what I'm saying? Like these are black people. These are black zealots, black people defending Jerusalem. These are Jews, the real Jews, not those people in the land of Israel today. When you watch History Channel specials about, the siege of Jerusalem and all of that, they show white people. These are black people. These people of color. You get what I'm saying? So I just want to, remind the audience.
If I could, Thabawan, that's definitely important. And it's the reason why we're doing this breakdown.
What kind?
It's to make these things real to brothers and sisters. We're talking about us, man.
Right.
This was us 2,000 years ago. Bunch of niggas and gangsters and holding down our part of the city and holding down our set. And who these niggas? We ain't rallying under that nigga. I don't know them niggas on that side of town. That was Jerusalem.
Right.
And they talk about infighting and political beef, and they talk about neighborhood beef.
Right.
Niggas I'm from the west side. Nigga, I'm west side of Jerusalem. Nigga, we from down bottom. Nigga, we from up top.
Right.
We from Midtown. Nigga, we from uptown. That was Jerusalem 2,000 years ago.
Right.
And then here came the Romans to put an end to all of that nigga shit.
I'm from Galilee.
Slovakia for my language. But that's what was going on, man. You gotta and like Thabawan said, put this in your mind that we are talking about us.
Right.
Jerusalem was the Bronx, New York City.
Right.
Philadelphia.
Right.
You understand? Los Angeles, South Central, Compton. You understand? It's South side of Houston, Texas. You understand? Little Haiti in Florida, or the other side of the bridge in Miami. What them cats in Miami call that? That 305.
Yeah.
Like, this is us we talking about 2,000 years ago, and the white man breathing down our throat. White man taking all the power, got all the wealth. We fighting for crumbs, fighting for, a little morsel of something, but we can't even come together on how we're going to get that morsel.
So like it, sir. So you telling me that we've been oppressed by this man, the Edomite nation, before 1619 in Jamestown, Virginia? It goes deeper than the cargo slave ships and the transatlantic slave trade. That's what you're telling me. Okay.
I'm telling you, Thabawan, that the last days have been going for 2,000 years.
Good night.
And we are in the end of the last days, and it is high time that we awake out of sleep and come back to the Most High. And hopefully, this history lesson will help brothers and sisters understand just how dire of a situation that we are in as a people.
That's heavy, sir. This history lesson will make understanding the future that much more clear.
Come.
Did you have more on that clip, sir? Or
if I could, I'm going back to it right now.
All right, sir. Come.
Traditional Jewish fighters were lightly armed and armored. They fought at range with slings, bows, and javelins, before closing in with spears, swords, and clubs. While agile and determined, they often stood no chance in a straight-up engagement against Roman forces, especially heavy cavalry. However, the Jews in Jerusalem were much better prepared than was typical. They had been amassing equipment from Jewish workshops, Herodian armories, arms dealers, deserters, and defeated enemies. A substantial amount of gear had been gathered from the defeated Romans at Beth Horon, including an array of artillery pieces. In addition, the confused mess of siege warfare would negate many of the advantages a Roman force would enjoy in a field battle. Lastly, it must be said that the morale of the defenders was strengthened by the inevitable survival instincts that took hold when a city resolved to fight or die. While considering the armies is important, we would do well to remember that sieges are battles of attrition. As such, it is necessary to ask about the food and water supplies. Fresh water, at least, was not of immediate concern, owing to the presence of numerous cisterns around the city, as well as several massive pools which trapped rainwater. Food, on the other hand, was in short supply. During the infighting that preceded the siege, many of the grain stores had been raided or destroyed by opposing parties. In addition, The already huge population of Jerusalem had swelled to dangerous levels in recent weeks with the arrival of pilgrims celebrating Passover. The non-combatant populace far outnumbered the armed defenders and imposed severe limitations on the length supplies could last. Once the Romans closed in on Jerusalem, the countdown began.
If I could, Thabawan. So again, what this video just displayed to us was the makeup of the fighting force that was in Israel during the time of the siege, but also pointed out that in their, disgusting, wicked, tactical ways, the Romans led this siege on Jerusalem 3 days before the Passover in the year 78 or 69 AD. And brothers and sisters know that the Passover is the family reunion of all Israelites everywhere. So what you had during the time of this siege was a population that far outstretched the resources that Israel was used to maintaining. Imagine, this is why this siege is so important, is because it occurred during a time when all of Israel was coming home.
Right.
When all of Israel was in the land. In the Bible, during the time of Christ, there were so many people in Jerusalem for the Passover that Mary and Joseph couldn't even find a place for Christ to give birth. Couldn't find nowhere to stay. Wasn't no hotels, wasn't no inns.
Right.
Because that's how packed the city was. Well, those were the conditions that Israel were in during the time of the siege. Come on, Thabawan.
Good night. Is some more on the video?
Nah, that's it on the video. If I could, if you want to bring in your source, you know what I'm saying, for the account and the witness of what occurred during the siege.
Sir, if I may, if I could show one more prophecy of Christ.
Come on with it.
It's in Luke 23 and 28. On the way to him being crucified, Christ, the daughters were weeping after him, the women and things of that nature, right? It says, but Yahushua turning unto them and said, daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming in which they shall say, blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bare, and the paps which never gave suck. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. Just showing that Christ was prophesied of the Romans sieging Jerusalem.
And he prophesied that during those days, men would cry out and beg for the mountains to cover them because that's how badly they wanted to die. You understand? And during this siege, what we're about to get into with this witness and these scriptures we're going to go into, like I said, it was a very bloody, tragic, horrible event to imagine, but to experience nonetheless. Come on with it, Thabawan.
So if I may, as we go into a first-hand account of how horrific the siege of Jerusalem was, I just wanted to give a little insight on who's giving that information, if I could, sir.
Yeah, come on with it.
So it's a man, most people are familiar with, a man by the name of Flavius Josephus, which he got his name Flavius from the Flavian, being under Flavius, the Flavian dynasty, and Vespasian being an interpreter for Vespasian and his son Titus, right? So I just want to talk about a little bit about this man, give a little bit of insight on him. And it says, Titus Flavius Josephus was a first century Romano, quote unquote, Jewish historian who was born in Jerusalem, then part of Roman Judea, to a father of a priestly descent and a mother who claimed royal ancestry. He initially fought against the Romans during the First Jewish-Roman War as head of Jewish forces in Galilee until surrendering in 67 BC, or AD, to Roman forces led by Vespasian after the 6-week siege of Jotapata. Josephus claimed the Jewish messianic prophecies that initiated the First Jewish-Roman War made reference to Vespasian becoming emperor of Rome. In response, Vespasian decided to keep Josephus as a slave and presumably interpreter. After Vespasian became emperor in the year 69 AD, he granted Josephus his freedom, at which time Josephus assumed the emperor's family name of Flavius. Right? It says, Flavius Josephus fully defected to the Roman side and was granted Roman citizenship. So at one point, if I may, sir, he's fighting against the Romans. Then, he tucked his tail and became, he fully defected to the Roman side and was granted Roman citizenship.
And if I could, Thabawan, that just goes to, that's always been, not only in our nation, but in many nations, you know what I mean? But Flavius Josephus was a cat that tried to stand up and be strong. When the Romans came down, he said, listen, man, I'm done. He put down his weapons, said, hey, man, hey, I can speak Greek, and I can speak Hebrew.
Right.
And they said, all right, nigga, come on, we'll make you a Roman citizen. You understand? You go ahead and be an interpreter. And that's what put Josephus in a position to be able to give these firsthand accounts that he wrote in his histories that he comprised during his days in the Roman Empire.
It says, he became an advisor and friend of Vespasian's son, Titus, serving as his translator when Titus led the siege of Jerusalem in the year 70. Since the siege proved ineffective at stopping the Jewish revolt, the city's destruction, and the looting and destruction of Herod's temple, otherwise known as the Second Temple, soon followed. Josephus recorded Jewish history, quote unquote, with special emphasis on the 1st century and the First Jewish-Roman War, including the Siege of Masada. His most important works were the Jewish War and the Antiquities of the Jews. The Jewish Wars recounts the Jewish revolt against Roman occupation. Antiquities of the Jews recounts the history of the world from a Hebrew perspective for an ostensibly Greek and Roman audience. These works provide, here's the key, valuable insight into the 1st century of being Israelite and the background of early Christianity, although not specifically mentioned by Josephus. Josephus' works are the chief source next to the Bible for the history and antiquity of ancient Palestine and provide a significant and independent extra-biblical account of such figures as Pontius Pilate, Herod the Great, John the Baptist, and Yahushua of Nazareth. Now, the reason, if I could, sir, I wanted to bring out the background of this man is to show that the majority of his works are credible. You get what I'm saying? Because he's not someone who is finding sources and putting them together. He's the main source. Like, he was there in the 1st century. He was part of the first Jewish, or what's known as the Jewish revolts, led in the 1st century in the year 60. You understand? Which go ahead, sir.
And then, if I could, Josephus is largely credible when it comes to his eyewitness accounts.
Right.
But you have to understand that this was a brother who fought for Jerusalem, but then defected to the Roman side. So he cannot be relied upon in terms of his ideologies,
right,
and his views concerning religion and the Most High and how the children of Israel dealt with the Most High.
Right.
So you can largely rely on Josephus for what he saw, but when it comes to what he thought or what he felt or what was really going on with Israel and the Most High, don't believe nothing that nigga talking about.
Absolutely.
And it's also, again, important to know that Josephus was a brother. He an Israelite.
Right.
You understand? And he a cat that was trying to make the Romans proud.
Right.
He could not big up Israel. He could not talk about how gloriful it was to serve the Lord and to be the Lord's people, because he lived during the time where there wasn't no more Lord's people, nigga. It was Romans.
Right. Kind of what kind. So I got right. A lot of us have the works of Josephus. You understand what I'm saying? But in there, this is his account, one of his many accounts of how the Romans. It's actually entitled "Josephus Describes the Roman Sack of Jerusalem." Right?
Come on with me.
So this is him. It says, so the Romans, being now become masters of the wars, they both placed their ensigns upon the towers and made joyful acclamations for the victory they had gained, as having found the end of this war much lighter than its beginning. But when they had gotten upon the last was without any bloodshed, they could hardly believe what they found to be true. But seeing nobody to oppose them, they stood in doubt what such an unusual solitude could mean. But when they went in, but when they went in numbers into the lanes of the city with their swords drawn, they slew those whom they overtook without mercy, and set fire to the houses whither the Jews were fled, and burnt every soul in them, and laid waste a great many of the rest. And when they were come to the houses to plunder them, they they found in them entire families of dead men, and the upper rooms full of dead corpses, that is, of such as died by the famine. They then stood in a horror at this sight, and went out, that is, without touching anything. But although they had this commiseration for such as were destroyed in that manner, yet had they not the same for those that were still alive, but they ran every one through whom they met with, and obstructed the very lanes with their dead bodies, and made the whole city run down with blood, to such a degree, indeed, that the fire of many of the houses was quenched with these men's blood. And truly so it happened, that though the slayers left off at the evening, yet did the fire greatly prevail in the night. And as all was burning, came the 8th day of the month Gorpius upon Jerusalem, a city that had been liable to so many miseries during the siege, that had it always enjoyed as much happiness from its first foundation, it would certainly have been the envy of the world, nor did it on any other account so much deserve these sore misfortunes, as by producing such a generation of men as were the occasion of its overthrow.
Everybody understands. So, Josephus describes starvation, describes death. He describes that when the Romans entered into the last parts of the city where there had been no fighting, there was no one left to fight.
Mm.
And they opened up the rooms and went to some of the houses, and they found dead bodies. People who had died of starvation, died of a lack of resources, died of giving up on any hope that the Lord was with them any longer. If we could, Thabawan, give me Jeremiah chapter 19 and verse 7.
Count on kind. Jeremiah chapter 19, verse 7. And I will make void the counsel of Judah and Jerusalem in this place, and I will cause them to fall by the sword before their enemies, and by the hands of them that seek their lives. And their carcasses will I give to be meat for the fowls of the heaven, and for the beasts of the earth. And I will make this city desolate, and in hissing, everyone that passeth thereby shall be astonished at and hiss because of all the plagues thereof. And I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they shall eat every one the flesh of his friend in the siege and straitness, wherewith their enemies and they that seek their lives shall straiten them.
The Lord prophesied to us the great evil that would befall us if we didn't serve him.
Right.
He prophesied the great evil that would befall us if we did not keep his covenant. He prophesied the starving and the eating of children and the dying at the sword and the blood running in the street and the fire on the houses that would befall us if we did not obey him. And this prophecy came to its fulfillment in the days of the siege of Jerusalem.
Right.
It's the siege of Jerusalem was such a horrific event that even the conquerors wrote about it in sad terms.
Right.
Even the conquerors in their memory said, this was messed up, man. This was some horrible evil that befell these people here. And that is the other side of being the people of the Lord. On the right-hand side, it's glory, it's power, it's rulership, it's the giving of the law. And the King Yahushua is going to come back and reign, and the daughters of Zion, and the kings and the priests, and the mighty army, and the mighty men and rulers. The breastplate of righteousness, the breastplate, you understand, and the sacrificing of the lambs. On the left-hand side, it's starving in the siege and the straitness. Being overcome by your enemies, living under the foot of those who seek to take your life. And it is this which is the lesson that we should all learn from the day when the earth no longer acknowledged a land for Israel. Come on, Thabawan.
If I may, sir, what you just said really brought something to my attention. Being that Christ, right, Yahushua, in the Hebrew, of course, our King, prophesied and said that that this man gonna come down on y'all. Don't weep for me, weep for yourselves. You get what I'm saying? And it brings into account how important Yahushua is to us, because not even 30, 40 years prior to the siege of Jerusalem, a lot of brothers and sisters were screaming, let his blood be upon us and our children and our children's children. Does that play any role into what happened, sir?
For sure. I mean, it was all part of the Lord's vengeance for the evil of our people. You understand? You have to understand that the death of Christ and the betrayal of him was one in a long list of prophets and righteous men that the Lord had risen up.
Right.
But through Christ, the Most High prophesied that this man would be the last man that would die for us, and the payment and the vengeance was going to be great. And though the death of many priests, many prophets preceded that of our King Yahushua, it was upon his death that the Lord said, no longer can I stand with this people.
Right.
No longer can I protect them. No longer can I maintain them as a nation. I'm away with them.
Right.
And that is what the Roman Empire, the culmination of those sentiments by the Most High, was fulfilled with the rise of the Roman Empire and the conquering of our land. And it has remained that we are in that condition even until today, because we have yet to return back to the Most High.
Right.
We have yet to honor him and the promises he made to our forefathers, to obey him and to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, and to represent his righteousness on the earth, so that he could reestablish us as a nation with a home, with power, with rulership, with authority. And it is up to us to wake up and come back to the Most High so that we can receive of those blessings. But until then, all we have to look forward to is the continual reign of these plagues under this oppressor that began with the destruction of our homeland in 70 AD.
Good night, sir. That was excellently put. I have one more thing, if I could, for the people, sir.
Come on with it.
It's the excerpt from the world famous Babylon to Timbuktu. Everybody's have.
If I could, before we get to Babylon and Timbuktu, we want to discuss the fallout, right?
Okay, kind.
So before we can get to the quote from Babylon and Timbuktu, I'm gonna go back to that video and just gonna give you a little bit of the culminating narrative when the Jerusalem actually fell to the hands of Titus and his men. If I could, let me go ahead and pull it up right here, and then we're gonna get to Babylon and Timbuktu. Then we got a closing excerpt from this video, and we'll be wrapping it up. All right. Let me go ahead. Boom. Boom. Here we go.
While others resorted to crawling through sewers or even attempted to tunnel their way out of the city. In the end, both Simon and John were captured alive. They, along with 700 other young men, would be sent to Rome to be put on full display for the eventual triumph of Titus. All remaining males of the age of 17 and above were shackled and sentenced to death, either in the mines of Egypt or in the gladiatorial arenas around the empire. The women and children were taken to the slave markets. All told, we have no accurate figures for how many lives were extinguished or enslaved as a result of the sacking of Jerusalem. Josephus would have us believe that over 1.1 million were killed, while Tacitus offers a more plausible 600,000. These numbers both seem wildly inflated, but may be an indication of the carnage that took place when Titus resolved on destroying a highly populated city filled with refugees and pilgrims.
So, if I could, Thabawan, if we can get that quote from Babylon and Timbuktu, which goes into the fallout of the siege of Jerusalem. Come on with it.
Count on one kind, sir. This is the excerpt from Babylon and Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor, right? It says, in the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the quote Jewish state, quote unquote Jewish state, with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it had been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. And then it gives...
If I could, that just goes to show you that the rise of the empire of the Romans spelled the end of the homeland and the ruling of the Israelites on the earth.
Right.
That eagle rose up and it moved swift and it conquered us and conquered the rest of the earth. And it is that eagle who we are continuing to fight against today.
Right.
Like the diaspora or the continual fleeing and oppressing of our people began with the fall of Jerusalem.
Right.
We have been sheep that are lost and spread onto every mountain and every hill and every valley since the days that our homeland was taken from us by the hands of the Romans.
Kind sir, and if I could, we attribute this history to modern day Caucasians, if you will. We attribute this history like that they went through this. No, we went through this. We went through the siege of Jerusalem. We went and had to deal with Antiochus Epiphanes IV. We had to deal with them, the seven brothers in the book of Maccabees. That was us. So when we read, exactly, kind. So when we read these books, when we read these records, reading it is one thing, but knowing the time period, knowing the emperors of certain time periods, knowing what a Caesar is, knowing what the Roman Empire was capable of and their influence and how they had influence on the Pharisees and how the Pharisees were threatened by men prior to Yahushua. That's why when it came to Yahushua, they were like, we can't have this. Putting that all into it, it really brings it that much more alive when reading about the Bible, reading about the life of Christ during the time of Acts. The Roman Empire didn't just vanish from one book to the next. Like the Roman Empire was still in power. You get what I'm saying? The Pharisees still had influence in the city. You understand? And what Captain Soccer War did was shed light on the history and the importance of knowing the history, especially when it comes to our Lord Yahushua and the siege of Jerusalem, which Christ prophesied about. If I could.
And if I could, Thabawan, it just goes to showing you the importance of knowing the word of the Most High.
Kind of one kind.
Because the Bible is a historical and cultural record of the one nation of people and their dealings with God. But the history of the earth is undoubtedly in this book.
Right.
We just showed you the prophecy from God of the rising of this empire.
Right.
Even down to the minute details of the period of their 12 kings, the year of their 4 emperors.
Right.
You understand the shifting of their Julian Claudian dynasty into the Flavian dynasty.
Right.
All of this history is recorded in the Bible. The fall of Jerusalem was prophesied in the Bible. And no one on the earth is equipped or capable of providing you with this understanding and this insight than the priests and prophets of the Most High in Christ under commanding General Yohanan in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Now, if I could, Thabawan, to close out, got a little bit more, just this last play video before we come on with our closing remarks, all right?
Count kind, sir. I'm ready when you are, sir.
We have only to look at the modern sieges like Stalingrad to imagine the horrors which befell the numerous non-combatants trapped within the walls. Back in Rome, Emperor Vespasian was busy preparing the stage for the honorable return of his son. The victory at Jerusalem warranted a triumph and would be used as a centerpiece for the legitimization of the Flavian dynasty. When the time came, Titus would parade down the streets of Rome atop a chariot at the head of a procession glorifying the conquests in the east. Soldiers and captives marched down the streets in full regalia alongside floats depicting dramatic scenes from the campaign. Vast amounts of treasure were also on display, including the great seven-branch menorah. The crowning moment of the festivities involved the flaying and ritual strangulation of Simon Gioras, who had served as the overall commander of the Jewish forces during the siege. While the revolt may have been symbolically crushed, Jewish resistance would burn on until the final Roman suppression of Masada in 73 AD. Though this would bring about the conclusion of the first Jewish revolt, there would be several more to follow, each with increasing levels of devastation.
Salagi, if I could, Thabawan,
Khan.
you got it.
Khan, sir. You said what?
I said you got it.
Oh.
That was the end of
Khan, sir. If I could, like we like to do on this platform known as Practical Knowledge, the whole thing is to show you what we're talking about. That's why you see a lot of the scriptures on the screen. You see a lot of slides, the images, to really embody the time period of what we're discussing. You understand? In today's case, the siege of Jerusalem, key names. We went over Nero briefly. We went over Titus, who he was, Vespasian, the Julio-Claudian dynasty, the Flavian dynasty, the Second Esdras prophecy, Second Esdras, the 11th chapter, and the interpretation thereof, and the 12th chapter, and how it references the 12 emperors, and like Captain Sakawara said, in minute detail of who this is, and what it should do is inspire you as a Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian coming to this truth. It should inspire you to dig into that history, because the Bible says, if I could, sir, in Revelation 12, the earth helped the woman. We have these records to aid us in understanding our culture and who we are and our history. We learned today, without a shadow of a doubt, they wasn't just lynching us and hanging us in the south of America. They was doing that in Rome. They was doing that in Greece. You understand what I'm saying? They was doing that under the Seleucid dynasty, the Ptolemaic dynasty, if you will. They've been doing this. They've been slaughtering us. It was way before Christopher Columbus. You get what I'm saying? This man has a perfect hatred for us, and that's why the Bible says to never trust thine enemies. But point being, sir, if I could, I just want to thank you for coming onto the platform and shedding the light on what's known in history as the Siege of Jerusalem. And I know the people are going to be looking forward to having you on here again.
Most High Christ, I appreciate you for having me on. And like you said, it's very important for brothers and sisters to understand just how connected our present is to our past and how that relates to our future.
Right.
Now is the time for us to make a change, to make a difference. We can put an end to the siege of Jerusalem because it didn't end in 70 AD.
Right.
We are people who are robbed and spoiled. You understand? Hidden in prison houses. We are people who are oppressed and subjugated and overrun because of we do not know who we are, where we come from, and what our purpose is on the earth. So it is our hope that with this history, that with breaking down the just how intricately tied to our lives the Most High is, that we would turn to his word, seek his face, and call on him to heal us and our land so that we can raise up the honorable, righteous nation that he called us to be. The water to Officer of 1,000, Thabawan, you know what I'm saying, to Captain Gadar, raised up an excellent brother, to all of you for tuning in. I am Priest and Captain 10,000 Soccer War out of ISUPK, Memphis. Shalom.
Shalom, Israel. We'll catch you on the next one, man. Shalom.